everyone. This is Manohar Reddy, Assistant Professor, Department of Cybersecurity, Institute of Aeronautical Engineering. In this session, we are going to discuss about the next concept, relational calculus in relational algebra. Relational calculus in relational algebra. So today, we are going to discuss about this relational calculus concept under relational algebraic operations. So we have discussed already the different concepts like relational algebraic operations like selection operation, projection operation, set operations, as well as join operations. So now in this session we are going to discuss the relational calculus. So relational calculus is nothing but what? So we are going to write the queries in different forms. So one is procedural forms and the second one is non-procedural form. One is procedural form and the second one is non-procedural form. So procedural form is nothing but how we are going to write the syntax and how we are going to understand to display what is the result based on that query we are going to understand. So that is nothing but a procedural form and a procedural language. But instead of that writing procedural form, procedural language, we have to write non-procedural form. You have to write non-procedural form. So the first, relational calculus. What is meant by relational calculus? So relational calculus is a part of relational algebra and it is a non-procedural query language. Non-procedural query language that tells the system what data to be retrieved. But it doesn't tell how to retrieve it. So what we are understanding from this sentence is relational calculus is a non-procedural query language that we can write, but we are not able to understand that what we are going to retrieve from this query. So that means it tells that the system what data to be retrieved, but doesn't tell how to retrieve. It just shows what data to be retrieved, but it doesn't tell how to retrieve it. So it doesn't know how to retrieve the data from the database, but it tells what data is to be retrieved. So we have to write the non-procedural form. We have to write non-procedural query language. So we can write the query, but we cannot execute that query in the software. Query in the software because this is a non-procedural query, right? So non-procedural query is nothing but what we can understand and we know that what data is to be retrieved, but we doesn't know how the data is to be retrieved and how it does not values. So now we look at this relational calculus. There are two types of relational calculus. One is tuple relational calculus and the second one is domain relational calculus. One is what? Tuple relational calculus and the second one is what? Domain relational calculus. So in this tuple relational calculus, so what is meant by tuple relational calculus and what is meant by domain relational calculus? So tuple relational calculus. So the name itself tuple, that means we are going to retrieve the values and we are going to write the non-procedural query based on the tuples, based on the values that you want to display, based on the tuples, based on the entities you want to display. But in the domain relational calculus, you can combine more than two tuples or you can write more than two attributes, and based on the two attributes, based on that multi-valued attributes, you are going to display the result. So multi-valued attributes, based on these multi-valued attributes, you are going to execute the query. We are going to write the non-procedural query. So that is nothing but domain relational calculus. And based on the tuples, based on the attributes, single valued attributes, you are going to write the non-procedural query. so that it is called as tuple relational calculus. It is called as tuple relational calculus. Let me see how it works. Tuple relational calculus as well as domain relational calculus. So now the first one is what? Tuple relational calculus. So tuple relational calculus is used for selecting those tuples that satisfies the given condition. So tuple relational calculus is used for what? Selecting those tuples. That is nothing but selecting those attributes that satisfies the given condition. So suppose you can give the condition like age greater than or equals to 20. Age greater than or equals to 20. That is nothing but you are going to mention one tuple. That is what you are going to mention one tuple. Based on this tuple, you are going to display the result. So consider this example, the table as the student table, and it contains what? First name, last name, age. These three are the attributes, or you can say that these three are the tuples. And the first names are Azit, Chaitanya, Rajiv, Kal. Last names Singh, Bhatia, Pratha, and age is 30, 31, 27, 28. So you have all the details about these first names, last name, and age for the student table. And these are three are the tuples, and these three are the tuples are attributes. You can say that. So now what we have to do? Let us write a relational calculus queries. We have to write what? Relational calculus queries. So we can understand this query. So what is the query? Query to display the last name of those students where age is greater than 30. We have to understand this query is like what? Query to display the last name. So what we want to display? Last name. We want to display the last name of those students where age is greater than 30. So that means the condition is what? Age is greater than 30. So based on this condition, so that is what we mentioned from this definition here. Tuple relational calculus is used for selecting those tuples that satisfies the given condition. So what we are giving the condition here? Age greater than 30. So what we need to display here? The last name of the students. So now write the query. Query to display the last name of those students where age is greater than 30. So generally how can we write? Actually we can write select last name from table name is what? Student where age greater than 30. Age greater than 30. Now this is a procedural query. We can understand this and we can write this and we can execute this. But what we have to do? We have to write the non-procedural query for this procedural query. We have to write non-procedural query for this procedural query. So how we can write? Look at here. So we have to mention the tuple relational calculus, so that we have to mention the tuple t dot what to do display. T dot what to do display. So what we are going to display here? Last name. So T dot last name, and from the table, what is the table name? Student. So from the table student, and the condition is what? T dot age greater than 30. So tuple age and tuple dot age greater than 30. On this condition, from this table, what we want to display? The last name. We want to display the last name. So generally we have to write this query like this. This is a procedural query, procedural form. We can write like this, procedural form. But we have to write this query in the relational calculus point of view. So we have to write like this. T dot, that means tuple dot what tuple you are going to display. So I am going to display what? Last name. I am going to display last name. So T dot last name, and the table, from the table what, student table, and the condition is what, T dot age greater than 30. T dot age greater than 30. So on this condition, from this table, I am going to display last name as a tuple. So now it satisfies the definition. Tuple relational calculus is a non-procedural language that displays the selecting tuples based on the given condition. So I am selecting the tuple to display last name on condition age greater than 30. So now I written this query and I executed this one. Right. So look at here in the above query, you can see two parts separated by a symbol bar. So symbol bar. The second part is what, where we define the condition, and in the first part we specify the fields which you want to display for the selected tuple. So from this query, from this relational calculus query, it is separated with bar symbol, and from the bar symbol left side what we are going to display, and from the right side from the table and what condition you are going to display, from the table and what condition you are going to display. So this is the way you can write the query, you can write the relational calculus query. So to write the relational calculus query, you need to understand 3 points. One is what? One is what? On what condition you are going to display. On what condition you are going to display. And the second one is what data you want to display. What data you want to display. So you want to display either last name, you want to display either first name, or either you want to display the age of the students, right? So you want to display what you want to, what data you want to display. And the third one is what, you are separating with the bar symbol. If from this bar symbol you can write from the left side, from the left side you want to display what, you want to display what, and from the right side on what condition you want to display, on what condition, on what condition you want to display. So these 3 points you have to remember by writing this relational calculus queries, by writing this relational calculus query. So after writing this one, we have to understood what, the last name of the students whose age is greater than 30, the result is what, only the sing, only the sing. So from this table, from the below table, so Ajit Singh is 30 and Chaitanya Singh is the 31. So here the Singh is having the age is greater than 30. The age is greater than 30. Now this is what we are getting the result from the query. This is what we are getting the result from this query. So this is the way we can understand of tuple relational calculus. Tuple relational calculus. Now you can understand this second query also. So what is the query? Query to display all the details of students where last name is Singh. Where last name is Singh. So I want to display the details of all the students where last name is Singh. So here we have to understand this, what, last name is Singh. That is the condition. Last name should be the Singh, and I want to display all the student details. So now we have to mention two things. One is, if you are selecting the particular tuple, you can mention T dot age or T dot last name, like the way you can mention if you are selecting a particular tuple. If you are not selecting particular tuple and if you want to display all the tuples, then you can mention directly as T. You can mention directly as T. So now the query is what? So generally we can write the query like what? Select star from students where last name equals to Singh. If you write this query as a procedural query, you can execute it and you can display all the result, first name, last name of the students and age, along with the student's age, first name, last name, whose last name is Singh, right? But we have to write this procedural query into non-procedural form. Non-procedural form. So how to write is this one? So you can mention this tuple for all the fields because I want to display all the tuples, right? So I want to display all the tuples so that I can mention T. So that I can mention T as a tuple list. And you can separate with the bar symbol. You can separate with the bar symbol. And from the table you have to mention here. The table name is what? Student. Student of T, and you can apply the logical operators and or not, you can use anyone, and I can apply here and for the condition. So condition is what? T dot last name. T dot last name equals to what? Sing. So tuple, the last name tuple is what? Sing. So now the result you will get like this: first name Ajit, last name Singh, and the age is 30. Similarly, the first name is Chaitanya's last name is Singh, and age is 31. So here I did mention what? I did mention like only the condition is what? Last name equals to Singh. So that whose age is under any condition and last name is only having Singh. Last name is having only Singh. On this condition only we are going to mention this query as a relational calculus. Relational calculus for this tuple relational calculus. So this is the way you can understand this tuple relational calculus queries. So we have to understand the query first. After that, on what to display, on what condition you are going to display, and you can apply that in relational queries as well as non-procedural queries. You can apply that relational queries as well as non-procedural queries. So if you understand this relational query, then you can easily able to write this non-procedural query. Non-procedural query, right? So this is the way you can understand TRC, tuple relational calculus. And the next one is what? Second one is domain relational calculus. Second one is what? Domain relational calculus, right? So in the domain relational calculus, the records are filtered based on the domains. Based on the domains. So here domains are nothing but multi-valued attributes. Domains are nothing but multi-valued attributes. That means you can mention either name, either age, either last name or either first name. You can mention all the attributes. You can mention all the attributes. So write like this: select age comma last name, or select age comma first name, or select age comma marks. So like the way you can mention all the domains. You can mention all the domains. So now we can see here. So again we take the same table to understand how the domain relational calculus works. So the table is what? Student, and the student table contains first name, last name and age. First name, last name and age. The names are first name age Ajit Singh 30 and Chaitanya Singh 31 and Rajiv Bhatia 27 and Call Pradeep at 28. So these are the first name, last name and age from the student one, right? From the student one. So now we can understand how to write the query. Look at here. Look at here. So query to find the first name and age of students where student age is greater than 27. Where student age is greater than 27. So now we have to understand the condition. What is the condition here and what table you are going to display and what are the attributes you want to display. So I just want to display first name and age from which table? From students table. On which condition? Student age is greater than 27. Student age is greater than 27. Student age is greater than 27. So now you can select like this. So I want to display what? First name, comma, age. First name, comma, age. Separated with bar symbol for all student table, and condition is what? Age greater than 27. Age greater than 27. You can and you can write this query in the inside of parenthesis instead of parenthesis. So this is the way you can write this query. So generally we can write the procedural query like what? Select, I want to display first name comma age from table name student, and where the condition is what? Age greater than 27. Age greater than or equals to 27. If you want to mention equal, also you can mention. If you do not want to mention not equals, then age greater than 27. So based on this procedural query, we can build a relational calculus query like this. So what you want to display? First name and age you want to display from which table? From student table, and condition is what? Age greater than 27, and condition is what? Age greater than 27. So note from this point, so the symbols used for logical operators are and for and operator, or for or operator, and not for not operator, not for not operator. So the result is what we will display. The first name is Ajit, and the second name is age is 28, and Rashid, and age is 30, and Rashid age is 32, and Rajiv age is 33. So from this you can write the query. So query to write print first name comma age from student 1 where age between 27 and 31, where age between 27 and 31. So I am mentioning this condition as age between 27 and 31, and from the table is what? Student table, and what you want to display for the first name and age I want to display. First name and age I want to display. So now check it once. So how can we write the query? So generally we can write the query in the procedural form. How can write? Select first name comma age from student 1 as the table name where age between 27 and 31. This is the way you can write the normal procedural query. Normal procedural query. But we have to write in relational calculus query. So we have to understand what? We have to understand the domains and then operators on which condition you want to display. Which condition you want to display. So now write the query. I want to display what? First name, age, so that I can mention those two tuples, and from the table is what? A student table, and age between 27 and 31, so that you can mention like age between operator and 27 and 31. So 27 and 31, this is the and operator, 27 and 31, so that this is the and operator. So on this and operator you can display the result, so what is the result you will get? So you will get the result what? So this is the first name comma age you will get. First name comma age. This 4 you will get the result because the age is between 27 and 31. So 28 is between 27 and 31, and 30 is also between 27 and 31, and 32 is not, it will display, but you can write 30 as a output, and Rajiv also 30. So 27 and 31, the age between 27 and 31, you will display all the results. So this is the way you can understand the queries of writing domain relational queries as well as tuple relational queries. So this is for this query, and you can understand this query for writing the relational queries also. Suppose you can take another example like 3. So suppose you can have the table like a student table. You can have the table like student, and this student can have the ID and a name, comma marks. ID, name and marks. So ID is 101, ID is 102, and ID is 103. So I am giving the example to write the queries, tuple relational queries as well as domain relational queries. Let us see how can we write. And the IDs are 101, 102, 103, and the names are suppose Smith, Smith is one name, and marks I will get 76, and Rani, and you can write 84 marks, and the name is Raj, you can mention 96 marks. So these three are the attributes from the student table. These three are the attributes from the student table. Contains values what? ID 101, 102, 103. Names Smith, Rani, Raj, and marks 76, 84, 96. Right. So from this table, I want to display what? The name whose marks are greater than 90. Whose marks are greater than 90. So I just want to print what? Name. I just want to print name of student table. Name of student table whose marks greater than 90. So this is the query I have to build, and what I need to write the answer from this query. So how should I write this query? So generally we can write like select name from table name is what? Student. Select name from student where marks greater than 90. Where marks greater than 90. So this is I can write and I can execute, because I know this is the query procedural and we can execute also. But I have to write this query in the TRC, Tuple Relational Calculus. How can I write? So I can write what? So what I need to display first of all? I need to display what? T dot first name. I want to display T dot name. I want to display name. So the tuple is what? Name. Bar symbol, and from table is what? T dot student table. T dot student table. T dot student table, and marks greater than 90. Marks greater than 90. So this is the way you can write the tuple relational calculus query. Tuple relational calculus query. So this is the name which I want to display. This is the table I want to display, and this is the condition on which basis I am going to display the value. Right. So this is the query you have to understand. Right. So this is the way you can write the tuple relational calculus. Similarly, we can write the domain relational calculus also. So I want to display, the question is what? I want to display all the names. I want to display all the names. I want to display. So query is what? Display all the names. Display all the names. Display all the names or all the values. Display all the records. Display all the records whose marks less than 80, whose marks less than 80, whose marks less than 80. That means whoever having the marks below 80, we will display all the ID, name and marks of that student. I want to display the marks of the student who is having less than 80. I want to display ID, name and marks of that student. So I have to write the query in procedural way. How can we write? We can write select star from table name is what? Student. Select star from table name is what? Student. Where marks less than 70, marks less than 80, sorry, marks less than 80. So whoever having the marks is less than 80 will display their ID, their name and their marks also. So now this is the query. I can write it, I can execute it. Based on this, I'll get the result only this one. But for this, I have to write domain relational calculus also. Domain relational calculus. So how can I write domain relational calculus? I can write direct T. I can write, this is indicates all the tuples of the student table. This T direct indicates all the tuples of the student table. Or else you can write like this also. id comma name comma marks. id comma name comma marks, separator symbol, bar symbol. For all, from the table name is what? Student, student, and operator, age less than 80, age less than 80. So this is the way you can write domain relational calculus, domain relational calculus query. So this is the way you can mention this all the tuples, but you have to write this in inside of the parenthesis only. You have to write this in inside of the parenthesis only. So now this query is like non-procedural query. So this is the domain relational calculus query. This is the domain relational calculus query. You have to mention all the tuples by mentioning just T, or else you can mention all the fields also, all the attributes also, right? So this is the tuples you want to display, and this is the table name from where you want to display, and this is the condition name on which condition you want to display this all. So this is domain relational queries, domain relational queries. So this is the way you can understand the domain relational queries. So this is what we discussed in this session. So we will see what are the things we discussed in the session. Look at here. So first one is what? Relational calculus. What is meant by relational calculus? So relational calculus is a non-procedural query language. We can write the queries in non-procedural way. So based on the conditions, we have to display all the tuples, right? We have to display all the tuples. So there are two types of relational calculus. One is what? Tuple relational calculus, and the second one is what? Domain relational calculus. One is tuple one, and the second one is domain relational, right? And the next one is what? Tuple relational calculus. So how can we understand this tuple relational calculus? So on what condition you want to display, and from the table which you want to display, on what are the things you want to display. So the first name, last name, age, from this all the tuples, what you want to display, on what condition you want to display, from which table you want to display. These three you have to mention. The syntax is like what? This one. So inside of the parenthesis you have to mention in that the tuples list, tuples dot column name, tuples dot column name, separator with bar symbol, then next table name, the next operator name, if at all and or you can mention anything, operator name, the next condition, this is the way you can mention tuple relational calculus, right? And this is for both tuple relational as well as domain relational. But only the thing is what? Tuple relational calculus you can selecting only particular tuple only, but in the domain relational calculus you can mention all the tuples also. You can mention all the tuples or whatever the tuples you want to display. So that is what you understand from this tuple relational calculus. Tuple relational calculus, right? And the next one is what? Domain relational calculus. So domain relational calculus is also same like tuple relational calculus, but we have to combine two or more tuples to display relational calculus queries, to display relational queries calculus results, relational calculus results, right? So this is about relational calculus in the relational algebra, relational calculus in the relational algebra. Thank you all.
Like, share and subscribe. Hit the bell icon for more updates.